while world burns around him. One people stand above to brutally murder evil in its stupid evil face. We're taking a quick peek at Mute Crimson Plus. Mute Crimson Plus is a remake of Mute Crimson, as you could probably guess. A very retro-inspired platformer originally released on the Xbox Live indie games. This new Plus version updates pretty much everything from the game's previous version. New graphics, music, and even level design in some areas. Ice Lizard Games pulled all the punches when they decided to update the game for PC audiences, and I have to say they did a pretty great job. Mute Crimson Plus isn't the first Xbox Live indie games title to have an updated version brought to the PC. Both Die Hard Dungeons and 1001 Spikes have their origins on the Xbox. And even so, Mute Crimson Plus still stands out since it basically is a completely new game from what it used to be. One of the most striking things about Mute Crimson Plus is its art style. It's going for the retro pixel art style that you would see in any retro-inspired platformer, but the developers have made it a little bit more unique. Just about everything in Mute Crimson Plus is monochrome, it's black and white. Everything that is but evil stuff. And blood. They really like to play up the crimson angle in this game's title. Seriously, there is an obsession with ridiculous amounts of red fluid spilling all over the place in some of these boss fights. While Mute Crimson Plus may be a retro-inspired platformer, which seem to be a dime a dozen these days, it takes the Shovel Knight approach to the idea. Instead of just replicating difficult platformers from the past, Mute Crimson Plus takes nostalgic lessons and mechanics and updates them for modern gaming. After all, Mute Crimson Plus wears its inspirations on its sleeve. The game is very much inspired by Tecmo's Ninja Gaiden series since the main character is a ninja, and one of the main mechanics is climbing on walls. Unlike Ninja Gaiden, Mute Crimson Plus takes the Super Meat Boy approach of mostly short but difficult levels that challenge you but still feel fair. For the most part. Some of these levels get very, very ridiculous as the game progresses. It also copies Meat Boy's one-hit kills, quick reloads when you die, as well as the lack of a live system, which I'm perfectly fine with. The main character of Mute Crimson Plus is Ninja, who is a ninja. Ice Lizard Games went for an interesting way to tell their story for their game through completely broken English. Cutscenes take place between sets of levels and boss fights, with a combination of text and static images to show you what's going on. The game's writing goes mostly for comedy, but all of the text in the game is referencing old, poorly translated video games. It's a grammar Nazi's worst nightmare, and honestly, it's a little bit distracting. Having no idea where Ice Lizard Games is located, I didn't catch on to the poor translations being done on purpose, and I was only able to confirm that they were done on purpose after emailing the developers. Bad translations are still a thing in video games today in 2015, and you never know where they may pop up, especially with all the titles that are being pushed through Steam's Greenlight program these days. Unlike a sizable amount of those games, however, Mute Crimson Plus has some pretty good gameplay. I say pretty good and not good since there are a few things that I'm not a big fan of. Keeping with the Ninja Gaiden inspiration, one of the main mechanics Ninja can do in Mute Crimson Plus is grab and climb on walls. He can also double jump, grab onto monkey bars, and unleash his fury in a painfully slow melee attack. For being a ninja, you would think he would have better reflexes. Maybe it's just one of those cases where he calls himself ninja so no one will notice that he never actually finished his ninja training. Even so, just like you, everything that isn't a boss dies in one hit, and the slow attacks mean that you have to be sure you time your attacks accordingly, and it really fits into the rhythm of the game's main mechanics. That's something that I do have to say about Mute Crimson Plus. It feels kind of like a rhythm game when it's all about timing, when to jump, when to attack, when to grab onto a wall. Hopefully you'll actually grab onto that wall. Just like with the original Ninja Gaiden, Mute Crimson Plus has the issue where sometimes your character will grab onto a wall when you don't want them to, and not grab a wall when you do want them to. I've had multiple situations where Ninja is more focused on showing off his mid-air rolling skills instead of actually grabbing onto walls, causing him to usually fall to a clumsy, painful death. And there's also some strange registry, for lack of a better term, when it comes to the walls you grab onto. If you start climbing on a wall and you get to the top of it, the entirety of Ninja's body has to get to the top of that wall before he'll start walking on the upper ground, even if his sprite isn't actually grabbing onto anything. This becomes very apparent in levels where you need to keep moving and don't realize that Ninja's still on a wall when you think he should already be at the top running. What really makes these little issues a problem is the game's overall difficulty and length. There are 7 worlds in the game total, each world with its own boss fight and every world consisting of 9 levels, and I got the feeling that the game should have ended at least twice before it actually does. Each world does a great job of introducing some sort of new mechanic, be it a hazard or a new enemy, and the overall level design introduces these mechanics very well, but the game's difficulty ramps up like crazy towards the end. I read somewhere that someone was able to beat the game in around 4 hours, which greatly surprises me, since according to Steam, I put somewhere around 10 hours into the game to finally finish it, 2 of those being on this one freaking level. I hate lasers, man. To be fair, I did decide early on that I was going to grab Mute Crimson Plus's collectibles, which did make the game a bit more difficult than usual. Every level has a token in it somewhere, and it's up to you to find it and figure out how to collect it without dying. Just like with Super Meat Boy, when you grab one of these tokens, it isn't automatically saved. You have to grab a token and finish a level, or grab a token and grab the next checkpoint to actually save the fact that you have that token. If you die before you do that, you gotta grab it all over again. Most of the tokens are pretty easy to find but difficult to grab, while others are hidden off the beaten path. I'm looking at you, level 7-9. Collecting tokens lets you unlock things in the extras menu, such as a boss rush mode or an arcade mode where you have to beat the game with only a limited number of lives. Collecting all 50 tokens gives you cat ears. It's totally worth it. Totally freaking worth it, man! It's totally worth it! You can also unlock a sound test where you can listen to all the sweet tunes Mute Crimson Plus has to offer. The developers have put the soundtrack up for sale, and if you're a fan of chiptune music, I'd recommend checking it out. It's pretty great. With good controls, a nice theme, a good sense of humor, and some great level design, Mute Crimson Plus goes above and beyond what you see most retro-inspired platformers do these days. It innovates on the retro ideas, modernizing them for the current marketplace instead of just emulating them, even if it is very obvious what games inspire Mute Crimson Plus. Iced Lizard has even included the entirety of the original Mute Crimson game for those who are interested to see how the title has evolved. The original game is basically the same as the Plus version, but with worse graphics and some worse level design, but it's still kind of fun to play. If you happen to like difficult but fair platform games, give Mute Crimson Plus a shot. It's also at a great price at $5.99, with the soundtrack being sold separately at $2.99. Thanks for watching. Please let me know what you think about the game or this video in the comments section. I'm MegapieMan. I'll talk to you guys later. The game's main focus is, but I do want to go over some specific points. The world of Cradle is a sci-fi, futuristic, and almost apocalyptic world plagued by a disease that causes people to explode. Totally worth it!